Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and I have with me the most amazing woman, Kathy Heinshon. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So nice to have you. I love what you are all about. You're multi-potentialite, just like me, and it's always fun to find friends, right?
Yes, absolutely. I feel
You're
the
a high
same.
fiber too. What's that?
I feel the same.
Mm, I love that. Okay, so we're going to be talking about self-sustainable health, and you have the most amazing journey of transformation and whew, you love to help others even to the point of frying. So let us know a little bit more about you, Kathy.
Yeah. Wow. So how far back do we want to go?
Far as you want.
I'll just do the quick snapshot. I have always been a caregiver. I've always been everybody's therapist, taking care of everyone. I've had a just a personality and I guess a soul depth that people see that there's some wisdom, and so they want to share with me. And so I've been a secret keeper, I believe, since I was a kid. People would always come up to me and share their deepest things and just talk to me. And so I just began helping people, feeling that that was my job and that's what I did. I just helped people and made them happy and took care of their problems and became a caregiver. And the last 7 years, well, that's been a year and a half since my grandma, well, a little over a year since my grandma passed, but a year and a half since I was caregiver to her, and just went through a really, really rough time through that, trying to maintain keeping myself, but also giving at the expense of my own health and a lot of things. So I've had a lot of health challenges all growing up and autoimmune problems, things that I had stuffed for so long, so many years. And, I was the one that people came to. So I absorbed everything and it had nowhere to go because I didn't share my own stuff. So
Oh, yeah, kind of the
it's been
adopted child in a way.
yeah. So I've been on a recovery journey now.
Yeah. And you lost your grandpa and you were with him till he died too, right? You helped him and then
Yep.
grandma?
Yep, I was with him before my grandma passed, and I originally went there to take care of him, and once he passed, then my grandma didn't want to be alone, and so she asked if I could just stay on. So I did, and it was, it was a really, really heavy learning experience, I'll put it that way. I
Yeah.
wouldn't change it, and I got some really beautiful things out of it, and I cherish a lot of those moments that I had with her. It was also one of the hardest jobs that I've ever experienced, because it was a 24/7
Oh,
caregiver role where I definitely was beyond burnt out. So it
uh,
was really stressful.
yeah, it's like having worse than having a newborn baby. Oh,
Yep.
crazy. And you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's and colitis in junior high?
Celiac. So Hashimoto's was a diagnosis. I actually had hypothyroidism in ninth grade that they knew of. And then they didn't formally diagnose until Hashi's until I was 19 or 20, I believe.
Okay.
And then celiac was pretty close to about 22, 23 is when I found out that. I just knew I in ninth grade, so when I was about 15 years old, I realized I did not feel very well when I had like pizza or things like that. My face would break out like crazy. I had horrible acne for years, and dairy was just not good for my system.
Yep.
So I tended to avoid those once I started making that connection, but did not know that it was a gluten thing or dairy until college almost.
Okay. Wow. And you have
Yeah.
a very special aunt that just passed. Is that recent?
My aunt, yeah, I was actually named after my aunt.
Oh,
Yeah, she was diabetic and could not have children, and we had just a really special connection. She was really close to my mom growing up, and I would go help her. I would go scrapbook with her, and I would help out with the horses occasionally. And yeah,
um,
there was a few. Wow, that brings up. There's some traumatic events too. She had a lot of troubles with her blood sugar as she got closer to when she passed, and found her and had to call the ambulance and everything. There's a lot of trauma around that too. So
yes, yes, yes. And you're quite like the
yeah.
empath, aren't you? You take on energies easily.
You know what? It's funny. I'm realizing that I am more of that, but I didn't see that growing up because I I've always been able to just see into people. I've been able to see their hearts. I've been able to see who they are. I've been able to feel this great love for everyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can see strangers and I can start just feeling so emotional and overwhelmed with love because I know them, but I don't know them. It's like, I know them, but I don't. So I have this overwhelming connection to people that I've been terrified of that in some ways, that it's kept me a little bit more isolated. And most people come to me. And so I never realized that a lot of that was empathic because I always saw things. I would maybe just, like when I was doing body work or something on someone, I would just go right to the area because I could see it. I could see that, oh, this is where their body's needing help or whatnot. So
one of my clients, Daniel Adams, he can just see right into someone's soul, and he was always so embarrassed because he thought for sure that everybody could see his. I love that story.
That's awesome.
Very cool. All right, yeah, and so then you put on a ton of weight, just kind of almost out of protection of all the there's some really negative energy when people are very sick and dying, and
Yeah, my grandma had, it's still been a journey and a lot of stress. On top of health challenges, there was a time when when I realized what my health problems were, I had been on all kinds of steroids and drugs, pharmaceutical route. I was allergic to everything. So it was kind of like the guinea pig, let's try this, let's see if this will help. I had one doctor tell me at one point, he said, this is what we give AIDS patients. And your immune system is so overstimulated and awful that we need to do something. And so I remember thinking, I am taking stuff for AIDS patients. This is horrible. So I had changed my life back then, and it would work. It helped healing through nutrition and everything. And so then going back through having a lot of that resurface and then more autoimmune problems where they're thinking possibly fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, they're really labels on things that they're like, we don't know what you have. So we're going to test a bunch of things because we don't know what to do for you. So,
oh man.
So it was quite a trauma gaining 80 pounds from my grandma.
Yeah.
And from being there, not from her, but from that whole experience, because I was so stressed all the time. I couldn't work out. I ate super clean, and yet I still gained all of that because it was just so stressful. I mean, I love my grandma. She's very paranoid, and she loves the news and lives in a space of fear. She lived in such a state of fear all the time. I mean, I would go outside, we'd take the dog out, and she would just be so worried that the dog was going to get taken or that something bad would happen to me. And she would just be yelling at us to come in. So living in that intense fear all the time. And it's not a world that I live in my own belief system. And so to be around that all the time, it really was a shock.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, you can feel the heaviness.
Yeah, right.
A deep breath.
Deep breath. I love it. Healing is possible. Okay, so tell us more about that, Kathy.
Well, given my own journey through autoimmune challenges and just a lot of stress growing up, I had a lot of trauma growing up from just a rough family situation, even though I had a great childhood. I had a lot of beautiful experiences, but at the same time, there was just a lot of stress that I carried within, trying to be making everybody happy, perfectionist, all that stuff. And so, realizing that it really was possible to overcome a lot of those health problems that I'd had, or especially for me, the biggest thing was just that lack of peace that I had, the emotional, mental heaviness, discouragement, depression, anxiety, overwhelmed, all of that, that healing is possible, and not just possible, that it really can happen. It does happen all the time. And when you get to start to really listen to that inner wisdom inside and tap into your heart space and do the heart work, to realize that what we're thinking and all those senses are taking all this information in, and it's sorting it out through your experience. And when you can start to get clear on that, then things shift dramatically. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I always say the first step in healing is understanding. And I originally meant from people outside of you, and it's so true. What you're talking about is that tapping in and listening to yourself and allowing, your soul level, really your fully embodied soul, be guiding you, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And the human part is like the heart. So really listening to your heart. What is your heart really saying? Yeah?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it knows. It has that. I mean, they originally thought back in Egypt in different times, ancient times, that it was a brain, that it was its own brain. We have our brain, our conscious brain here, but it has a brain, our gut has a brain, they all have very much have their own awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right. And so everything comes back to love. So tell us a little more there.
So, well, everything either is love or fear-based. Probably your audience, if they're familiar with you and your work, they probably understand some of that and have heard that language. But it really is true that we come from a source, a divine source of love, and that unconditional love space, and we're just an extension of source. And if that's our true nature, that really is who we are, is love. And so when we scrape off everything that isn't us, all of our limiting beliefs, all of our fears, everything that comes from what isn't us, and we get back to what is us, it all comes down to love. And so if we can remember, and that whatever is fear, whatever is stressful, or whatever BS comes up in our beliefs, right, or our mind that tries to tell us that something is wrong or whatnot, if we can tap back into that space of realizing, no, how can I get back to love? How can I return back to the space of my nature, which is love? And if I am love, I'm an extension of love. And if I give love, like if that's who I am, then everything changes. Everything.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. So breathe love, right? And be love and live love and remember that you are loved. You want to tell us a little more, like maybe in each of those categories?
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of like let's just be a hippie, like love, like it's all peace, love, happiness, it's all good. But no,
That's awesome.
it's so funny. So breathing it, being it, breathing is such an interesting thing. Our autonomic nervous system, our subconscious is in charge of everything. It takes care of everything. Our parasympathetic system, our nervous system, like it all works together to take care of our daily functions, what we breathe, what we smell, taste, like our brain. Thank heavens I don't have to tell my heart to beat all the time, right? Like, okay, beat, beat, beat. Like I don't have to consciously think about that, or my kidneys or bladder. Like, thank you, body, for taking care of that, right?
Autopilot. Yes, thank you all. Autopilot.
Right. So even though breathing is one of those things that the subconscious can that it does work with or does manage, we have the ability to consciously override that, and we can actually tap into focusing our attention on that and changing. And when we tap into that breathing, we can't focus on anything else because it becomes a conscious present moment. It forces you to become in the present moment, and the present moment is where we have all the power to do anything. It's where we have choice. When we're coming from a space of the past or reaction, we never have a choice because we're reacting. But when we're in the present, then we have that power. And so when we breathe into us, deep belly breathing, when we take that moment to breathe, then we really tune into the present moment of who we are. It's a reminder of who am I? I am that extension of love. I am love. I'm whatever I choose to create, right? I can change that. If I don't like the beliefs that I have, it's just a belief. I can change that. And then how do I live from that space of that inner breath, breathing through the heart, breathing in the heart of who I am? If I am love, if I am loved, if I can't do anything that, I guess, how would I word that? It's more, if I'm seeing myself as unworthy or undeserving, then of course I'm going to project that out, and I'm going to live from that space. I'm going to create situations that push people away, or that I feel rejected, or I'm going to feel insecure, and it manifests that way. So when I breathe love and I breathe who I am and I remember that, then all of that BS just goes away, and then I can really start moving from that space. So it really is just remembering.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I call like being fully present. You can't be fully present unless you're fully embodied. And, so like your soul is in like at core level. That's when you're really, truly, fully present. And when the gremlins are talking to you, your ego is trying to, yes, protect you, but from human remembrances, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you're scrambling if you're just completely listening to ego. And if you don't listen to ego, ego goes over and recruits the pain body and like all the hurts and stuff of your past and really get just scared, right? So it's great to listen to the ego and then check back in at the soul level, you know, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you. Right.
Yeah. Well, and the ego is important to understand, like, what am I thinking? What is going on? And the pain body, you know, if it does tap into that, it's just one big distraction because the ego then thinks that it's too much or too overwhelming. So we're going to distract you so you don't have to feel those heavy, hard emotions that you don't want to feel. So we're going to go into the body and create pain and create symptoms. So to get you to focus on that, it's just a big distraction, but it's a protection mechanism that works beautifully. Mm-hmm. It's designed to be that way. And then when we get conscious and realize that, oh, okay, yeah, the symptom is just talking really loud and there's something underneath that and what's really going on, that we can start to shift some of those things and change our life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so it's like there's nothing to heal at the level of the soul because you're not living from your pain body. You're not living from your ego. You're living fully present as the sage where everything just is. And I love that. So
no resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you work with trauma clients. I work with trauma clients. So what is kind of, and you even work with PTSD and I do too. So what's kind of like your secret sauce with some of that, the trauma clients or the PTSD?
So much of that. So the first step that I always say is that we really work on just radical acceptance. Yeah. Wherever there is trauma, there's resistance. There's some part in the brain that is resisting, you know, the ego, the brain, the memories that are the subconscious is taking in and going, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. Yep. And so everything is heightened, aware, and resisting what actually is. And so if we can just accept that, okay, I'm triggered, I'm stressed, I'm upset, I'm scared, whatever it is, that radical acceptance, it's like calming that big tiger that got, you know, like all puffed up and irritated.
Like your grandma, right? She was just like crazy
all the time. And so it's more about just radically accepting first what is, right? We're going to release all the resistance, and then we bring love into that space. And we say, okay, because we bring consciousness, if this is all designed perfectly, and if my body is reacting the way that it's supposed to because it perceives a threat, how can I get conscious and aware and step out and start noticing the 5 senses that are taking in information? And how can I start processing it differently, moving it from the one part of the brain to the forebrain, to the conscious part? How can we start to become more present and aware? And it just takes it away super quick. I'm able to help people overcome. I've worked with vets in very traumatic situations, and within a session, you know, they're able to just completely shift that and not have any charge at all.
Nice. So beautiful. Yeah, it's about neural energy placement, and it's just amazing how that all works. You know, even when you're just looking at autism or Alzheimer's or ADHD, it's fascinating. I love that.
It really is. It really is. I love it.
Okay, so Live It, that was a great example of Live It, you know, shifting mindset and stuff, and just acknowledging that, okay, this is normal, because with PTSD, it's like, oh, I'm broken. It's like, no, it's a shift. It's a energy shift. All right,
well,
go ahead.
Oh, no, and just one last thought on that, remembering too, just what popped up is that, you know, it's so beautiful when you can actually realize that, no, wait, there is possibilities. Because I think when you come from that space of feeling broken, or when you're in trauma and you're triggered, it feels very impossible, that there isn't an option, there isn't a choice, you can't heal, it's not going to happen. So when you remember that, no, healing is possible, and how can I get myself in alignment with that vibration to ask better questions or become more aware, or what is it that I can do? Because there's always a possibility. We always have a choice.
And there's signs, and, you know, just kind of thinking through the signs of what led up to a trigger. And it's like, oh, that's impossible, there's nothing. And it's like, look, there's dogs that can figure this out, you know? 3 days ahead of an episode, okay? You can figure this out. So yeah, just being more conscious. And it is hard when you're, so into the PTSD being way low on the brain stem. You're not even up to that cognitive level. So
exactly,
doing things that actually slow the brain down is huge. My secret sauce is having them keep their eyes closed. That has been huge. And you hear, like, even with meditation, they've had a great deal of success with even the vets with PTSD.
Oh yeah, deep breathing is huge. If you can get them, you can get them
that
breathing.
slows the brain down, slows everything down, really. And that's what the trigger thing is. It's that neural energy shoot, right? And then and that goes right into the panic, and then the cortisol and all of that. So yeah, it's quite the combo. And then the other thing is to shut off the movie player. And a really easy way to do that is too bad I didn't know you in the time of grandma, because getting her, or you can even do it for her surrogate, to have her put her hand on her forehead. She was running emotional pictures on the right side of her brain. When you put your hand here, it electrically connects. It's almost like there's a wire coming out of the right side of the brain and a wire coming out of the left side of the brain. Once you put your hand over your forehead, you've now crossed those wires, and what you've done is gotten logic over into the right side of the brain. And that calms people like fast. And you can do it for people, which is really beautiful too. Like a kid, like a 2-year-old having a tantrum, like, good luck saying, put your hand on your forehead. My hand is my helper,
Right.
But if you think, your child, and you become them, and then you get your hand up for them, it's huge. It makes a big, big difference. And you can, like, when the kids come home from school, you can kind of just chill them by, instead of saying, how was your day, just think them and just kind of bring them back.
It's we use that as like a grounding tool in the cranial.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. The other thing is, well, this is to kind of stop the movie player. Another thing to stop the movie player is to literally stop it. So, like, if there's a memory, that's triggering them, freeze frame the memory so there's absolutely no motion in the memory. But this is stuff that you would do outside of triggering, right?
Not when they're in in that space. But I do find that when so one of the things that I work with that is, we call it a see, feel, hear. It comes from the lifeline technique, Dr. Darren Weissman. Brilliant, beautiful technique, modality. And if they can become more of that observer, so even if the screen is playing on their mind, if they step into that observer role where they're watching, like a movie theater in front of them, they're conscious, more of aware of what's going on in all directions, and then they can start shifting it, so they're not in a reactive state. So I actually have them go to a movie theater oftentimes, because they go as an observer, and then they bring it, okay, so let's notice, let's pay attention what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're hearing as an observer. And then what is that telling me about me? What is the limiting belief? Where is that coming from? Recognizing the protection mechanism, thanking it, thank you, body, infinite love and gratitude. Thank you for doing your job, trying to keep me safe. But
that's a great way to bring people out of a trigger, and to not get them to trigger in the first place. They start to go in, they just go in as that observer, not, oh, this is happening to me, right?
It works really well. Of course, obviously, when they're triggered, then you just do whatever you can to walk them through that, whether it's tapping or like breathing, like, okay, recognizing, I'm triggered, I'm feeling pretty emotionally intense right now and reactive. That probably means I'm triggered.
And the thing with triggering, though, it gets labeled that it's bad, and it's like, the sage, it's not bad, it's not good, it just is. And what are your tricks? What can you do? So just like, the only way out is through, right?
Yep, that emotion needs to flow. It's energy in motion. It's got to go somewhere. You need to move it.
Yeah, it's all good, yo. Okay, so I think we covered that one really good. You are loved. All right, Kathy, so tell us a little bit more about your attitudes and thoughts around you are loved. Like, how do we know, and why did you say that?
Oh, so wow, this just goes back to the deep core of the extension of getting back to our true nature. If we realize that all of the beliefs that we aren't loved or that we don't deserve it or nobody could ever possibly, because look at all the experiences that prove that, right? Because how I see life through these colored lenses has been one that believes that I'm not worthy of that. And so when we remove those lenses and we get back to who we really are, we realize that everyone is worthy and deserving of love. And not to like make that not special, I guess, and by generalizing, but we all come from that source of love. We're an extension of that. And so I love when, okay, so have you ever had that moment when you probably don't, you do this yourself, but when you really take that moment to breathe deep and you tune into your heart and you close your eyes and you're in that space of really listening to your heart, everyone can feel this. Everyone can know that in that space, we can feel that love and know that it's there for us. And that's our true essence of really who we are. So when we can kind of close into us and breathe into that space, then we recognize it. It is our nature.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. All right. So tell us a little bit more about how love is our nature, or how maybe when you're out in nature, you really get that sense of being loved and cared for and nurtured.
Yeah, well, I think everything that we do is mostly a reaction. Well, okay, so we have fear-based, but even then, I find it so interesting that most reactions out of fear are, if you dive underneath that and you look underneath that, what's motivating that fear-based reaction? You know, if we're terrified of losing our partner, or we're jealous, or we're stressed, or we're noticing what they're not doing or something, and so we're kind of pushing and pushing and pushing. And yet underneath that, it's because we're scared of losing them, and we're scared of not having that love, or we're scared of not receiving that. And so even fear itself is so connect closely to love. You know, I think that's why, like, I hate and love, I've often compared that they aren't opposites. You know, love, the opposite of love would be more apathy, but they're so closely tied. And so when we really tune into recognizing that all things that we're motivated by, even our reactions out of fear, really are because there's something that we love or something that we want to share. You know, we especially empaths, or even so many people, everyone has the capacity to love. And so because it's who we are. And so whether it's your child or your family or work, or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, that a lot of that is we do things out of because we love them, even if it's stress. So it really is, it's just who we are. But we get those wires confused because we go back into those old limiting beliefs of, okay, well, they're going to lose me, or they're going to leave me, or they don't care, or they don't love me. Everything is based off of, will they love me? Will they accept me? Or can I show love, and are they receiving that love? We have such a desire for other people to feel the love that we share with them.
Yeah. You know, that whole thing, especially when you're married, the whole thing of like love, you can actually hate somebody at the same time you love them.
Oh yeah.
Like, you really can.
Oh yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I always separate, like, I hate what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but I love you, you know, because you are not your behavior. You're not your performance.
Yeah.
You are love. And so whatever you're doing has nothing to do with who you are. I've worked with prison inmates before, or people that have been to prison, or vets, or a lot of people with different trauma, sexual abuse, especially, this comes up a lot. And, you know, when they come from that space of feeling like they have to prove their love, or have to earn it, or deserve it, there's that deep belief that they can't, or they have to do so much in order to get such a little return. And because they've forgotten, they've tied their performance and what they do to who they are, and they're not the same.
A lot of times they're raised by narcissists. So that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, right? And do you feel like when you're out in nature, do you get a sense of being loved and nurtured?
Absolutely. I think for me, especially, I find beauty in everything. I've been such a nature girl my whole life. I can go out in the mountains and look out there at the ocean. I think, and just any time when we can appreciate what this world is and what the gifts around us. I mean, you can find love and connection in a leaf, or, you know, and there's so many people that for me, I love symbolism. And so I feel like, you know, God, the universe sends me messages from like animals or different things that show up in my
Yeah.
life. I see butterflies or doves or deer, or, I mean, doves will fly across, I'll be driving down the freeway and they'll literally fly right in front of my window, like where no birds typically are, you know, and it's like, oh, I love those messages, you know,
Yeah,
so you can
right.
find.
Yeah, and there's a message in, did it come from the east going west, or was it west going east?
All right, you can totally go into all that symbolism,
I go
and
crazy.
a lot of people can eat it up, and other times it's just appreciating that, wow, you know, putting my feet in the grass or getting out in nature, getting out in the mountains or the dirt or the grass, or just being outside, I think is just such a beautiful way to connect
Yeah.
to that love. I mean, Mother Earth has so much love.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so nothing else matters. What would you say there?
Oh, all the other stuff that we have is just noise. It's static, it's interference, it's I guess it matters in the sense that it's helping us be who we are on this planet and learn and grow and evolve. And yet when it really comes down to it, you know, you can talk to anybody who's on their deathbed or passing away. And I got that experience with both my grandma and grandpa. And the only thing that really mattered to them was letting us know how much they loved us and
Oh,
the time that they had and the quality time that they had with us. That really all the other stuff is just stuff, you
yeah.
know, having bigger, better things or more, like it's just noise. But
Yep.
what really matters is, do you love?
Yeah.
Can you feel love? Can you give love? Can other people experience that and feel that from you? How
Yeah.
do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about yourself and the world
Right.
around you and the people?
Yeah. Can you allow others to love you? Are you able to receive the love others give you? Are you able to receive love for yourself? And are you able to, embody it, which means like really live and breathe from that place, because then all of your actions prove that you have embodied it, right?
Exactly. And that when it comes down to everything, that everyone ultimately wants to feel that. Everyone wants to feel loved. Everyone wants to feel that they're accepted, and that is the biggest emotion that everybody seeks.
Right? Enjoy the experience. Woohoo, right?
Yeah, we were party.
Well, it's gonna happen anyways, with or without you. Life goes on.
Yeah. Oh, enjoy the experience. You know, it really is the perspective that we look life through, the lens that we look at life through.
Yeah.
And it is a choice. You know, I've had my time where I've had massive pity parties. I mean, the time when I was taking care of my grandma, I definitely struggled. You know, I really, really struggled, and it was hard to find the sunshine. And I would still go out every night. I would make it a point to go out and at least see the sunset, because we have incredible sunsets out here on the Antelope Island. It's just beautiful. And so I would go out and I would look at that, look at the horses, look at the sunsets. So I'd take moments, snapshots that I really struggled to enjoy it. And then as I started working through a lot of that I got back to remembering, oh yeah, I have a choice. You know, I can be all discouraged and frustrated and as my protection, right? Because where she was so stressed and upset, then I often diminished my own joy, because it was when I was free and happy, it was like she really resisted that. She was really bringing a lot of negativity to it. And, you know, and granted, I don't think she was trying to hurt me or try to make me miserable or anything like that. I think she just lived in such a space of fear, and it's just where she was. And so she just carried that through every conversation. But how I perceived it, right? My lens was, she's trying to stomp on my dreams, or doesn't really want me to be happy, or only wants me here. And I feel like I'm a prisoner, and I feel like I can't go do anything because she freaks out when I leave the house. And,
Yeah, right?
you know, so it was all of that. But then I forgot to really, really just recognize that all that whole experience was for me.
Yeah.
You know, I agreed to it, created it, you know, I was living it. So why not enjoy the lessons and the gift and the experience. And I spent so much time in resistance and struggle and stress because I kept trying to figure out, well, I don't agree, you know, I don't agree, and I don't agree with the news, and I don't watch the news, and I want to live in that fear. So I kept, you know, like, okay, she can be where she is. I love that. I love her. Like, it's fine. But I think I kept trying to force her in a way, or to see my perspective, to accept me, when I should have realized that whether she does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. I know she loves me, right? It doesn't matter, because ultimately, how do I feel about myself? So anyway, that went into a total tangent.
That was really
It's a choice.
Like, everything works for you, right?
It does.
And there were a lot of gifts in what didn't seem like was working for you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, even though I've really struggled with some health challenges because of that, and because of the stress and the weight gain and all of that, like, there was so much that I learned about myself, and I will never, you know, give that back. I will treasure that, because that was some deep understanding, and it was a hard way to learn. It was a really, really rough way to learn. But in the end, I know I've grown so much because of it, and I'm so grateful for that.
Cool beans. All right. So yeah, there is a gift in every experience, whether you think there is or not, whether you're feeling it at the time, right? I mean, it just blows me away when you hear about like the mass murders, like the gunman that went into a church and like shot everybody down, you know. And then there was this huge email that came out that I was so blessed to be able to see. And this was back when my kids were little. And it was this list a million miles long of all the things that didn't go wrong, all the protections that were actually there. It just like blew me away. And you know, we just want to focus in on the horribleness and the tragedy and the loss. And it's just hard to believe until like you read something like that, and it's like, wow. It's
right.
incredible. Yeah.
Well, and I think if we can step into that, the surrendering to the loss, and realize that loss often brings, and trauma often brings people together and brings more connection and more closeness. It can do the opposite. It can push away, depending on what they do with that and how they choose to look at it, and how they choose to respond to that.
Right.
But in a lot of situations, it actually brings people closer. And I think, look at the communities, you know, like 9/11, still look at all the aftermath of the stories and the connection and the love shared. And even in loss, that heavy, heavy emotion of loss, it allows such a deep shared experience of a world to come together, to connect, to feel, to be in that space, and then to bring love to that as well. I just think it's beautiful, even though it's such a horrible thing. We would never choose that or want that.
Yeah.
But, you know, because it happens, where we can use it as a way to reconnect.
Yeah. My husband and I are, you know, the gathering types of, you know, gather the people together types and network and stuff. And the process that he figured out and we further developed, you go through it yourself, then you can become a practitioner of it. And so all our practitioners have that extra bond too, like they've been through the process, and usually there's a significant hidden trauma. Sometimes it's something stupid some parents said to their kids. For the most part, it's not pleasant, and yet they arrive like totally, you know, in a healthy place of detachment. It's another page in their history book, because we keep them completely out of emotion, right? And the work that you do, tell us just a little bit more in, you know, like how you're working with your clients and helping them to even do like the brain shifts.
Yeah, so I love that. You know, thank you for sharing that. I think we do similar things in whatever way that we do it. And I love that when working with clients, when you can help them realize that there is a gift in every experience, right? When you teach them that their subconscious is responding exactly as it's designed to do, it's a protection mechanism. It's trying to keep them in survival and safe. It doesn't know the difference of it real or not real. It doesn't know that it's horrible or awful. Like, it just knows that it's survival. And so when you start teaching them and they start walking through that and realizing, okay, this is for me, and there's something that I believed in this experience that if I'm reacting in a negative way, that's unhealthy, right? Or that is limiting in some way, that is disconnecting me from my true nature. When you can get them back to that awareness and present moment, it helps them realize that, okay, so what do I want and who am I really?
Yeah.
And how can I start embodying that space to become that? And when I come from a space of recognizing that through this trauma, there's a gift, then that appreciation and love, and it's like all the resistance just melts away. The limiting beliefs start to shift. They let go of that. They become much more in them, like in their bodies, and they start to own their own power. They become more empowered. They start to see that, okay, maybe through this hard, whatever this challenge is, I know there's something good in it. And if I can look for that, that can change my life. And I realize that all things are working for me, and it just totally changes their perspective, but more so it reconnects them to who they really are. And I've always found that when you connect people to who they are, I never have to worry about people connecting to the divine or doing any of that work, because when you help them find themselves, they always find that source.
So beautiful.
Yeah.